Hello, and welcome to Sauce Lab's Testing Tactics Training. Our goal is to ensure teams are getting the most success, adoption, and ultimately value out of your partnership with Sauce Labs as possible. In this video, we're going to talk about some best practices to ensure you're running your parallelization effectively, as well as debugging as efficiently as possible. So, what is the difference between running tests locally versus on Sauce Labs? Well, the test creation and run performance is very similar. The key difference under the hood with running tests on Sauce Labs is scale. Sauce Labs allows you to run tests on thousands of different devices, browsers, and OS configurations anywhere. When talking about the differences between running tests locally versus on Sauce Labs, ultimately you get to run more in parallel with Sauce Labs. If you have a self-managed grid, you end up having to maintain a lot of things in between your sessions. You often have to reuse the same infrastructure. Your nodes don't get restarted on every test, and you have to manage a lot of versions and infrastructure things yourself. And it's one of the issues that most people don't have the ability to maintain and keep up with on their own grid. And given that most grids are not the same size and scale as Sauce Labs, you can run a lot more on Sauce Labs than you can on a self-managed grid. And we can see if we take a look at this chart. Some of these reasons are outlined here. Now, let's talk about parallelization. So, what is parallel testing? Test parallelization is the practice of executing multiple software tests simultaneously. By executing tests concurrently, your organization can complete the testing process much faster compared to sequential testing methods where one test needs to run after another. This time-saving aspect enables faster feedback loops, facilitates quicker bug fixes, and ultimately shortens the overall time to market for software products. Each framework has its own way of doing parallelization, and same with WebDriver I/O. You set the configuration file with how many different things are getting to run at the same time, and when you point at Sauce Labs, that happens. So if you don't see your particular framework and language code example today in this parallelization training, please reach out to your appointed customer success manager, and they would be happy to work with you to pull that for you, whether you're using Playwright or Appium or WebDriver I/O. Here is an example of instead of doing things in serial, where you can see each test runs one after another, equating to 9 minutes, versus running 9 tests in parallel for a total time of 1 minute. So your total run time when executing tests in parallel on Sauce Labs will equate to your longest running test. If you had 100 tests and the longest test took 3 minutes to run, and you had 100 virtual machines, your whole suite would take 3 minutes to run. So once again, being able to run more tests in bulk enables you to execute more tests, which means you'll have a greater breadth and depth of coverage that your end customer base is actually using, ensuring greater digital confidence for the end users of your product and a great user experience. Time is money. Long-running tests slow down feedback loops, which ultimately shortens the overall time to market for software products, resulting in loss of potential revenue for your business. So, the quicker you're able to run tests, the quicker you're able to ship products to your customer base and add more revenue to your business. Let's look at an example. The following code configures a number of different browser names, browser versions, and operating systems. This will be used to verify if the web application works correctly across the different combinations. Let's take a closer look at this example that uses testng. Here we defined a data provider method named browsers that returns different browser configurations. The configurations include the type of browser, which we can see here includes Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari, version of the browser, and operating system it is being run on, as we see here, Windows 10 or Mac OS 13. This data provider can be used in testng tests to run the same set of tests on multiple browser configurations. By using this data provider, testng can automatically execute the tests in parallel, making the testing process more efficient. For example, if you set a set of automated tests for a website, you can use this data provider to run those tests on multiple browser configurations, like Chrome on Windows 10 or Firefox on Mac OS 13. This allows you to verify that your website works correctly across different browsers and operating systems. Once again, ensuring the digital quality for your end user's experience. So, what does this look like in app? Here you can see that the tests are running in parallel using different browser configurations that were specified in the code. Here we can see Google Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. The other great thing here about Sauce Labs is you get to run everything on different browsers, all the different browser versions, and all the operating systems that we maintain that you don't need to, especially with new versions coming out. Consistently, we're always making sure we have the latest and greatest available for you in our cloud on Sauce Labs to test. Next, let's review the things to know before getting started with parallelization testing. Make sure that your testing framework supports parallel test execution. While most popular frameworks have built-in support for parallel testing, such as PyTest, TestNG, and JUnit, some frameworks require the use of additional third-party libraries or plugins. Next, make sure that your site under test can handle the number of tests running on it simultaneously. If the site under test doesn't have enough resources to handle the number of tests running on it simultaneously, the tests may take longer to complete, or worse, they may fail. Running tests in parallel can uncover concurrency issues in the site under test that may not have been visible when running tests sequentially. For example, if multiple tests access the same database or file at the same time, they may interfere with each other and produce unexpected results. Third, make sure your tests are optimized. It's really important to ensure that the site under test can handle concurrent access to shared resources without causing issues. Now let's review 3 ways to ensure effective parallel testing. The most powerful and effective strategy for achieving parallelization is to run atomic tests. Atomic tests assess just one single application feature. So rather than scripting a single test to validate the login page loads, user field name displays, password field displays, logout displays, and that items can be added to a cart, a team leveraging atomic testing would design 5 separate tests that validate each of those functions individually. Atomic tests offer many benefits. We've done several of these trainings in the past, where we've asked attendees to guess the following. Which of the following test suites, each covering the same application features, will execute faster? A test suite featuring 18 long end-to-end tests, or a suite using 180 atomic tests? To the surprise of most, the answer is the suite featuring 180 atomic tests. In fact, when using live demos using the exact same scenario, the suite featuring 180 atomic tests typically executes 8 times faster than the suite with 18 long flow tests. This is something really important to keep in mind when you're trying to run effective parallelization. Next, let's discuss keeping tests autonomous. An autonomous test is one that can run completely independent of all other tests in your suite. Many teams make the mistake of designing a multi-threaded process in which one test cannot successfully execute until its predecessor has done the same. So it's important to keep that in mind when running effective parallelization. And the same is true with debugging as well. If you have a test that you can only debug because it has to be ran sequentially, that's something to watch out for when trying to run effective parallelization. Finally, let's talk about correctly managing test data. The strategy we recommend is to leverage just-in-time data. With a just-in-time approach, you create test data, utilize it for a given automated test suite, and then destroy it at the end of the test. This cuts down on complexity and ensures that the data from a previously executed test doesn't muddy the results of your current test. Thanks for watching.